Hello again, and welcome back to Cast Album Chat with Tyler. I wasn't going to make a video again this soon, and I was hoping that I could get a little short video out. We'll see if that happens this time. And something just dawned on me today while I was at the gym about a topic to talk about. This is a bit of a controversial topic, especially for people that are physical collectors like myself. Of course, you can see CDs back here. I've got all my vinyls over here. But today we're gonna do a kind of a deep dive into the world of digital albums. So my little epiphany story here is that I was going to do a post on Instagram. I've kind of paired up an Instagram with this YouTube account. So I can do a few little things there, you know, just kind of like which recording do I prefer? What was I listening to at the gym? And so on. And I was thinking about Evita this morning. I was listening to one of the Japanese recordings that I actually have on my phone, but I was looking for an audio to put on a post. And so I searched for Evita, and then I saw the different recordings pop up. I did see the Japanese one, of course, London cast, Broadway cast. And then I noticed that the South African cast recording of Evita was just sitting there. So I was thinking maybe on Instagram I can pull from my own library that I have on my phone. I have ripped my copy of the South African recording of Evita onto my phone. So I thought, oh, maybe I can use what I have. This was not the case. The South African cast recording of Evita is now available on iTunes. I assume it's on Spotify as well. So this is your public service announcement for the day. If you've never heard it before, it really is a fun album. It's only highlights, and it's a bit interesting because it's split between two different Evas. The Joan Pizarro sings the majority of the numbers, and then Sharon Lynn sings about 2 of them, I think. So I thought that was fascinating, in that, you know, I had heard it before, and then whenever I got the album, like I was talking about last time, when I do some transfers, they don't sound as maybe deep as I want them to. It's almost like it comes through. It's not mono, but it's very kind of a tinny sound with my setup that I have here, which I'll probably do a video on at some point. But it was so great to hear this recording. It was made in 1981, I believe, for the, I don't want to call it a touring production. It was in Pretoria and Johannesburg. So started in Pretoria, went to Johannesburg later. But you know, the South African company from 1981, I never thought I would hear it in such great quality. But I did kind of want to go into a deep dive on this because, you know, as collectors, we don't really like not to have it in our hands. Of course, you can purchase this from Apple Music, iTunes, which is what I will end up doing, so that I can change the artists, make sure that I label everything correctly. But it was really, really cool to hear the good sound quality here. So, you know, what I lack in having something in my hand, which I actually do, I think it's somewhere up there on the wall right there, my South African recording. You know, what I lack in having something in my hand, and, you know, I've got the pictures and everything that I'll, you know, throw up on this video as well. I can actually hear it in the best sound quality that it's ever been available. So, you know, I just wanted to talk about that a little bit in this video, talk about some recordings that are only available digitally, and then also other recordings that kind of skipped CD altogether. They were available on vinyl, and now are available only digitally, unless you want to track down the vinyl. I highly recommend that you do that. If you are a collector, then you can kind of safe keep these. They might have some really great liner notes, pictures. There might even be some tracks on there that didn't make it to the digital version. So I think it's definitely worth tracking these things down if you are a collector. But it's really cool to hear these in better sound, with a better sound quality. So I've got a little list here. Gonna go through some of them, talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly of digital recordings. So I've got my little notes here for this video because I am very scatterbrained and I needed to have a list of some of the recordings I was going to speak about. I did kind of want to start with the Norwegian recordings. This is kind of a weird phenomenon lately, and I think they're the only country that is doing this. I would like to say the only theater, but this is actually between quite a few theaters in Norway. So it's just an interesting phenomenon. Starting off with there's a producer called Senkvelder or Senkvelder that is currently producing in Oslo at the Folk Theater, the Folketeatret. And you know, they've done Annie, Miss Saigon, Matilda, Phantom of the Opera, Chess, and I feel very, very lucky that they are releasing their cast recordings at least digitally. I would love to have a physical copy in my hand of a CD, but luckily, you know, on the websites, they have pictures all over the place. They have a very extensive cast list of who plays who, who's the music director, who's the translator. So whenever I do buy these on iTunes and then I put them on my phone or I have them in my iTunes on my computer, as you can kind of see here, that I can, you know, I can put that information in there if I need it. And then I can also have a separate document to, you know, kind of remind myself later on of who sings what, who did what year it premiered in, and when it was recorded. So, you know, they do have some recordings, like I said, Chess, Annie, and Annie even has a couple of separate singles that are out there just because it was a Christmas time show. So they have the regular cast recording, and then they have two Christmas versions of songs that you can purchase separately. Matilda is also available. It's a really great recording, and it also has some of those kind of storytelling sequences that I believe were added later on to maybe a digital version of the Broadway album. So definitely check those out. I'm very, very grateful that they just exist. Chess, for example, you know, is the Chess på svenska, I want to call it new, came out about 20-something years ago. But, you know, it's the new storyline for chess that's been produced around Scandinavia. So it's cool to hear some of those songs, Svetlana's new song, Molotov's new song. So you get to hear those in another language. It's really slickly produced. So it's definitely worth checking out those albums from the producer Senkvelder. Additionally, you know, going on with Norway, it's not just that producer. The first digital album that I think that was digital only that I saw was a musical that was originally from Sweden called Så som i himlen. You know, the Swedish recording was made available on CD, is also available digitally, but this Norwegian cast, which opened right before the pandemic and then I believe might have done a few shows afterwards, they only released this digital album. It sounds great, really, really great sound quality, and it gives you a better idea of what the show was like in the theater. The Swedish cast recording used an orchestration that wasn't used in the theater, so you get a better idea of what that live version of the show sounds like, even though it is a studio album. So that's with the Oslo New Theater. So I feel very lucky that they released that album. Additionally, there's another version of Så som i himlen from a town, I would call it, maybe it's a city, called Mo i Rana, I think is how you pronounce that, in northern Norway. They have a slightly different translation as well. It's only a 3-track EP album. It's only available digitally, but that cast is stellar as well. And it's cool to hear, you know, in this other slightly different translation, it's kind of a regional translation for that part of Norway, which is not something we generally get. You know, in Norwegian, we either get the Bokmål Norwegian, which is kind of the typical Norwegian that we hear a lot, or if it's from the Norske Teatret, you'll hear the Nynorsk, which is a different sort of dialect. Both of them are spoken in Oslo. It just kind of depends on, I guess, your circles. So, you know, we get those two, but we don't really get some of the regional dialects of Norwegian. Not that I could really tell the difference. Do you like my hair that just poked up here? Not that I could really tell the difference, but it's nice to hear some of these different regional changes between the same show. So that's kind of Norway right now as far as digital albums are concerned. They're really heading the world in digital show tunes at the moment. So while I would rather have the CD in my hand, it's better than nothing. So take a look at those albums: Annie, Chess, Matilda, Rocky Horror Show from the 70s, which was available on vinyl, very briefly on CD. It's very expensive if you actually find it, probably on eBay or Discogs. You can get it fairly cheaply with a really great sound quality digitally on iTunes. I'm sure it's on Spotify as well. So som i himlen, the 2 different versions you can find there. Plus, if you don't want to find the Swedish CD, or if you're not much of a CD person, you can listen to that there. I prefer to buy them. Some people will just kind of listen to music streaming. Do you notice how hard it was for me to say that? I'll get into this a little bit later about why I don't listen to music streaming. Although I think some of the, there is money that goes to the artist, but we'll get there in a second. So those are the Norwegian albums. Let's move on. So I'm looking at my notes list and I realize that I can't read my own chicken scratch, but I have made sort of a list of recordings that are available now. They might be available on CD as well, or you might just find them having a better sound quality on the digital album as opposed to what you would either find on CD or obviously vinyl. The Japanese production of Evita from 1982 released 2 different albums. We were lucky enough to, those are both available on vinyl. One of them was previously available on the HMI label, which is a whole nother video. I love the HMI label. They did the Highlight Studio version on CD. And then later on, we did get another record label called Solid that released both of them. They were remastered. The packaging is really, really great. I'll throw up some pictures of those so you can kind of see what the packaging for those look like. But I was actually surprised to see that those were streaming. If you want to find them on iTunes, just look for Shiki, S-H-I-K-I Theater Company, maybe. Shiki Theater. Look for that, and they should pop up. And when I searched for Shiki, I also saw that their new version of Frozen is available, and the new version of Beauty and the Beast, not the version from the 90s, but the revival. So if you've wanted to listen to those, or if you want to give it a listen before you buy it, then definitely take a look online. Speaking of Evita, I also found out that the Icelandic recording is on iTunes as well. Search for Evita, it should pop up there. But it's not under a theater company's name. It's actually under the actress that played Evita. I cannot pronounce her last name, but her first name is Andrea. So, take a look there if you've always wanted to hear the Icelandic recording of Evita. Kind of moving on, I did want to talk about a record label called Stage Door Records. They've done some really great stuff. In the last video, I talked about the Fantastics Mexico City cast recording. And they're the ones that put that out on CD, but they don't always put their releases on CD. So sometimes they are available only digitally. The only other foreign language recording I think that they put out on CD was Redhead, La Pelirroja, with Vilma Gonzalez. It's kind of a double pack with the studio album from the 60s and the Mexican cast recording, also available digitally as well. But they put out, it's not foreign language, but the South African recording of Irma la Dus, the Mexican recording of Brigadoon, and also the Mexican recording of My Fair Lady. Those last 2 are really, really fantastic recordings. So definitely take a look at those. If you've wanted to listen to those, I implore you, please, please, please either stream them or buy them. I wouldn't get them by any other means. The only reason that we have these is that we are giving money to the record companies. So I really, really hope that, when we're talking about digital albums, that we're purchasing these legally so that we get more. That's the only way that we're ever going to hear these obscure albums. is if we are giving money to the companies so that they can remaster more, so they can buy the rights and put them out either digitally or on CD. One last little album, something that kind of excited me as much as the South African Avida when I saw that it was available, was the Australian cast recording of La Caixa Folle. I'd heard it before, people passed it around before it was available on iTunes. And of course I had the vinyl, but none of the money went to anyone basically other than the person that sold me the vinyl online. So when I found out that this was streaming and digital, to be bought digitally, I snapped it up. It is the best cast recording of La Caixa Folle. And so if you want to hear that one better than you've ever heard it sung, performed, it's fantastic. So definitely check that one out as well. So those are all kind of the upside of having these digital albums. Sometimes they sound better than they ever have. Like with Avida and La Cage, they were only available on vinyl. So of course there's a huge uptick in the sound quality, and it's available to so many more people, so kudos to them for releasing those albums. I don't know how many people listen to them. I know our community is fairly small, but we can make ourselves heard, and hear things in return if we just, really listen to those albums when they become available. But those are the plus sides. I would say the downfall here is, like I was saying, some people will download that, share it with their friends, and the money really goes nowhere, so we don't get many more of them. And I think there would be a lot more available digitally if we were to all pay for either our streaming service or to pay for, the files that you can put on your computer, then on your phone. So make sure that we're doing that. That's my big plea. Also something, as far as streaming is concerned, I think is problematic is there were a few things that were available before and I can't find them anymore streaming. I also collect Blu-rays, 4Ks, DVDs. You can kind of see some of those up here. And there's a big movement happening with that community that, you cannot pry this out of my hands. I have it. It can go out of print. You might lose the rights, but I will always be able to watch it. In this case, you'll always be able to hear it if you download it and you have the files. So that's why I encourage people, even though it is streaming, if you can find it on iTunes Music and you can download the files, or on Amazon, it's just nice to have those, put them on a hard drive, and then, for safekeeping for the future. If they lose the rights, then you'll always be able to go back and find those albums. The one that specifically stuck out to me was Sugar from Norway, Oslo. It was available before when I was preparing for this video. I was kind of fully expecting to put that in the first chunk of the video with these Norwegian albums that are available digitally now. It did come out on CD, so you can find that one on CD, and I'm still looking for that one. I would prefer to have it on CD and then just rip it for myself. But it's not available, so I just have to take a leap of faith and hope that it's a good recording before I spend lots of money on a secondhand version of the CD. Another thing that I did want to mention, and it was another gem epiphany that I had. I wanted to plan a video for some Jesus Christ Superstar recordings, and I have the vinyl of the original Mexican recording of Jesus Christ Superstar. I also have the 1984 version as well, which is really, really bad sound quality, and I had a mint in the plastic version that I took out when I transferred it to my computer, and it just doesn't sound that great. But what I will say is that I found out that the original version is available for streaming and purchase on iTunes at the very least, and it sounds awful. It actually sounds worse than the rip that I did onto my computer from the vinyl. So that is not always going to be your best bet. Just because it's available doesn't mean it's going to be available in really great sound quality. And also it opens up some doubts. I was talking about in the kind of the myth, is it real or not video. Those doubts exist because there's just kind of random information out there that mislead people about, when something was recorded, which cast it actually pertains to. In this case, you know, both of those recordings, the original version from, I believe, 1975 and the 1984 recording were on Orfeon Records. And the copyright date for that is 1984. But whenever I played it, I did realize that it was the 1975 version. So, you know, it can lead to some confusion there. But, you know, additionally, the little picture that they have on there doesn't look very official. It's kind of like the original vinyl version, but there's a little seal on there. I'll throw up the picture here of the two, so you can kind of see the difference. I just think that the vinyl looks a lot better. That one was available on CD for a very short amount of time. It's one of the few Jesus Christ Superstar CDs that I don't have, that I've been looking for years and years and years. And I think I'd much rather have that version, because I believe that the sound quality on the CD is probably tons better than what we have here streaming. So, you know, while there are some good parts about being able to stream or digitally purchase an album, there are definitely some downfalls there. You know, they could just disappear at some point, or it could be really bad sound quality. So, you know, just know that before you get into the whole streaming world. I am I'm on Team Collector, as you know. So, you know, if you can find these, definitely have them. Talking about the Jesus Christ Superstar, the original Mexico vinyl. It's kind of in a, you know, kind of a thick box. Mine came with a poster, it came with a program. It has all these pictures in it, so I get a better idea of what the production was like. Otherwise, if I were just streaming this thing, I would say, well, it was kind of a low quality production. The recording's not very good. Still not my favorite Jesus Christ Superstar recording, but you know, I would have a lower opinion of what it was like, and I would probably listen to it less if I had only heard this streaming version. So keep that in mind. Once again, famous last words. I have not edited this video yet, but I am hoping it's going to be slightly shorter than my last one. I'm kind of working on different topics right now, talking to some friends. I did want to throw some shout outs. I said I was going to thank some friends before, and I didn't. Thank you so much to everyone I've spoken with about compiling these videos, or people that have kind of pushed me to start these videos again. But specifically Robert, Michal, Justin, I really want to thank you for kind of giving me some information, chatting with me about these things, and giving me ideas for videos. If there are any topics that you would like to hear me talk about, shows, types of scores, types of formats, whatever it happens to be, let me know. So don't forget to subscribe to the channel and put your comments down below so that I know exactly what you want to see from this channel, and then I'll go forward with that in the videos. Thank you again, and I'll see you next time. Bye.